Most people that want to be actors but haven't started yet have already talked themselves out of it. Not because they can't do it, but because they think they're too old. Their window has closed and the opportunity has gone. I've been on both sides of the casting table. I've hired actors in their 60s and 70s for leading roles. The industry doesn't work the way you think it does when you're standing on the outside looking in. Danny Trejo didn't set foot on a film set until he was 40. But by the time he was 60, he had over 100 film credits, and now he's the face of Disney. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how that happened, how it happened for some other well-known actors, and what that means for you and your ambition to become an actor. So here's Danny Trejo in his own words.
And he said, "Danny, are you still boxing?" I says, "I'm training, man. I'm 40 years old. I don't get hit in the face no more." He says, "We need somebody to train one of the actors how to box." I said, "What's it pay?" And he says, "Because they're going to give me $50 for acting like a convict." And he says, $320 a day. I wasn't making $320 a week. You know what I mean? I started training an actor named Eric Roberts how to box. And Andre comes up and says, "Danny, you be in movie. You fight Eric in movie."
And that's interesting, isn't it? I don't know if you noticed it, but it wasn't his acting skills that got him his first job. It was an ability that he brought to the screen from his outside life, a life skill, if you like. In his case, it was boxing, but it could equally have been something else. When you analyse it, we all have these abilities that can give us huge advantages in the industry. Later on, I'll tell you about the things that I think helped me get my first breaks in television. But Danny Trejo could box, and that gave him a huge advantage over many of the other actors that might have been considered for that role. You have to remember that Danny Trejo was a complete unknown. Nobody was going to cast him because they'd seen him in a play. He was at best a background artist. But he had something at that one particular moment that gave him a massive advantage. So what I'd like you to do now is to think about the special skills and abilities that you might have that would give you an advantage over people that had been in the industry for, say, 25 years. Let's say you're in your 40s. What life experience do you bring to a particular part that would give you a distinct edge? Okay, so let's do a thought experiment. You and I are going up for the same part. This particular part is, a fly fisher. And that's your hobby. You really love fly fishing. Whereas I wouldn't have a clue what to do if I was fly fishing. Now, I might have had 30 years experience in the industry, but now, in one particular area, you're more valuable to the production than I would be. You see, on a level playing field, I'd probably get the role every time because I'm an experienced actor. They could trust me to do something. But the fact that you've got that particular skill set, that kind of tips the balance a little bit more in your favour. And here's the thing, I think you'll be a little bit surprised when we go into it in more detail about the kind of things that will give you an advantage. They're not always what you think. You don't have to be a champion boxer. Now, this is a bit tangential, but I think it's a great analogy, so bear with me. In the First World War, armies were spread out along a whole front on both sides. One army this side, one army that side, and they pushed each other backwards and forwards. And it really resulted in stalemate. Everybody was equally balanced. So in the Second World War, the Germans came up with a thing called Blitzkrieg. And basically what that was that they, instead of having their whole army spread out all along the front, what they did is they concentrated their army on one point, and they hit that point with everything that they had. Okay, and broke through the enemy lines and got round behind them. Now, this is not a video about military history, but the point I'm trying to make is that's what I want you to do with your acting career. Okay, find that one thing that's going to help you get your break and concentrate everything on it. Now, at the start of your career, even though you could do it, there's no advantage in saying, well, I could be a romantic lead, or I could be a villain, or I could be anything in between. There's no gain in that for you whatsoever. You need to focus on what your advantages are. Now, I've got a student in the Acting Academy who has a massive skill set, and you know that's incredibly valuable to a particular kind of part. They're going to watch this video, so they'll know who I'm talking about. But they say, "Oh, well, you know, I don't really want to, you know, I don't really want to lean on that because I want to be known for being versatile. I want to be playing different kinds of parts." They said that they didn't want to be typecast. Okay, well, that's all well and good, but that skill set that they've got will give them a massive advantage in getting their first job. And it's silly to throw that away. But the truth is that unless they get a breakthrough, they won't even be typecast. There'll be no cast. So typecasting isn't a restriction, it isn't a prison, it's a way of getting your first 10 jobs, your first 10 credits, your first 10 paychecks. See, Danny Trejo is the proof. He looked like a tough guy, he knew how to behave like a tough guy, and he sold that.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like I played like inmate number 1, or bad guy number 1, or killer number 1, or tattooed guy number. You know, I always had these, but the director would see me, and I was SAG, so he would say a line, you know. So that's where I got my training. Really, the first 5 years of my career, I'd say like, "Or I kill that son of a bitch," and that's, wow, that was perfect. You know, he loved the way I said it. I said, "I've said it before," you know. So it's like you know.
At that stage, no one was going to cast him as a romantic lead. Forget about it. Danny Trejo knew that, so he never tried to be the romantic lead, but instead he mastered being the menacing presence. So remember that all the time that you're getting breaks because of the natural abilities that, if you like, God has given you, you can still be working on your acting technique and expanding your abilities as an actor. You know, you should be looking at all of the lessons that we do at the Acting Academy, expanding your career, getting better and better and better at acting, so that eventually you do get offered the romantic lead because you've become a brilliant actor. Or maybe even the hero that cries in a Muppet movie. This channel provides tons of acting advice and acting lessons that would cost thousands if you were to get them from a conventional drama school. All we ask in return is that you like, subscribe, hype. These are some actors that started their acting careers after working in another job. Now, what I want you to do is to do some research. I want you to find out what that job was, and I want you to see if there's any way that you can say that they used a skill from that job to get them their break. Let me know in the comments what you find out. Also, let me know in the comments what your particular skill set might be. Whatever it is, whether you're an accountant, a carpenter, a nurse, drop it in the comments and I'll get back to you and tell you exactly how you can use that to get your next acting job. So we spoke earlier on about other actors that didn't start their careers until much later in life, and the prime example of that in the UK is Buster Merrifield, who played Uncle Albert in Only Fools and Horses. He was 65 years old when he got that part, and that was his first professional acting job. He'd been a bank manager before that. Now I can hear you saying, hold on a minute, Mark, how does being a bank manager help you play Uncle Albert? I'm going to come back to that in a minute. We also spoke about my career. Now, my first television jobs came about largely because I looked like a copper, a policeman. And the fact that I'm a native Londoner, a Cockney if you like, definitely helped when I was cast as Alfie Kane in EastEnders. So going back to Buster Merrifield, have you worked out what it was that gave him an advantage? He was old. It was as simple as that. He had something that 95% of the acting profession didn't have. They weren't the right age. So in this case, something as simple as the amount of years that you have lived is your special skill. And it might sound silly, but it's true. It's certainly something to think about, isn't it? So most importantly, remember that whatever age you are, you still can make it happen. The boat hasn't sailed, the door hasn't closed, you've not missed out on your opportunity. There is still something there for you. But you've got to work hard and be committed. So your advantage only gives you the opportunity. It's how well you train that determines how successful you're going to be as an actor. So in this video, I outline the 5 biggest mistakes that new actors make and how to avoid them. I suggest that you watch that. And then you can watch this one, which is about how to act in front of camera. I'll see you in the next lesson.